Okay, so I would like to talk to when students are very young and they come from early intervention. Early intervention looks very different than going into preschool disability programs. So I want to speak to what would be the important things you feel a family needs to know when they're making that entry or transition from early intervention into preschooler with a disability type programs. And I'm going to ask for Eileen Devaney to speak to, what do you typically guide a parent in knowing the differences from early intervention into preschool disability? And what do you think some common, thoughts, concerns are that you usually discuss?
When we're meeting with families who have a child that was receiving early intervention in the home, we talk about the differences and how, the criteria that we're looking for, first of all, to see if a student would be eligible as a preschooler. And the family attends the meeting and they bring the child so that we can get to meet the child. And typically we're able to interact with the child to see if it seems that an evaluation would be, something that we're going to do. And when we evaluate, we're looking at different criteria. We're looking at cognitive domains, communication, motor, adaptive domains, and social domains. And it's when the child demonstrates delays in those areas that meet the criteria, then we look at preschool as a placement for them, and we have different options for them depending upon what their specific needs are.
So different from early intervention where services are at times offered in the home and with a direct educator with parental supports. Mm-hmm. Preschool can look very different and the eligibility is different. So we look at those areas of domain deficit or areas of relative weakness, and we make sure we've put a speech, OT, PT, specialized instruction into our preschool. Can I ask Kathy Acosta to comment on what our preschool disabled programs look like? I think we lost her. Kate, would you like to comment?
Sure. I think we have a range of different preschool programs available to our children, from more restrictive to less restrictive. All of our early preschool programs are self-contained classes that provide small group instruction that specializes towards the child's specific goals and objectives to help them grow in the areas where they are having difficulties. As children get a little bit older in the preschool program, we offer an expansion on that where we have an integrated preschool model where children can begin interacting with their general education peers, if appropriate, to help with the transition up to elementary school. Within the preschool program, we continue to offer speech services, PT, OT, integrated into their program either as a pull-out or a push-in model.
Thank you. Pat Hegwald, I would like to ask you to make some comments when we transition out of preschooler with a disability. By the June of when a child will be turning 5, we have to shift from using eligibility criteria that's based on a percentage of delay to looking at a child no longer as being eligible under preschooler with a disability, but under one of those other 13 categories. So can you speak to the fact of how the assessments change?
Sure. At the end of the year, your last year of preschool, the students will be reevaluated by the original child study team of the home school that your student belongs to. And usually they'll have another social history taken, a educational evaluation, a psychological evaluation, and then if necessary, a speech language or an OT or a PT. Team meets together, gathers all that information. Also, if there's any medical information you want to provide, that would also be considered. And then your child now has to meet one of the 13 categories that they're entitled to under the special education law. It might be autistic, or it might be communication impaired and orthopedically impaired, or a specific learning disability. And what we do is we take all the information we got from our testing and we see if they meet the criteria under the law for any of those categories, and then we're able to extend their eligibility into the kindergarten.
Thank you. And then those categories and programming becomes very individualized throughout that elementary school years. We try to hone in on the areas where we see that there are gaps between what a child's ability is and what their learning is, and we try to close those gaps as quickly as we are through specialized instruction. We would probably be reevaluating within 3 years of that eligibility. So if they've entered in kindergarten, it's likely that by grades 2 and 3, we're looking at another assessment. And perhaps by the time that they're moving out of their elementary experience and moving into our middle school, there's that other opportunity for transition. We have new testing that we conduct that's helpful because we want to make sure that we're targeting the needs of the student. And by participating in those evaluations, we find out, are the good programs we put in place working? And does the child have what they need, or do we need other individualized intensive programs to continue to close those gaps while they transition?